Before we dive into this thrilling story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest uploads. Your support keeps us going. Now, let's get into it. I used to stop by my parents' house in Salem every Sunday. It was a routine, part habit, part obligation. That two-story red brick house had been my second home, and in many ways, my responsibility. I helped pay off the mortgage during Dad's layoffs, renovated the kitchen tile by tile, replaced the plumbing after the winter storm, and kept the roof from collapsing, literally and figuratively. That afternoon wasn't supposed to be any different. My mom, Denise, waved from the backyard, hands deep in orchid soil, and called out, "Hannah, can you take a quick look at these papers? I don't understand them." She handed me a messy stack before heading back outside, trusting me as she always did with anything related to documents or bills. I sat at the dining table, the same one where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays, flipping through forms, receipts, and letters. That's when I saw it. A thick, cream-colored envelope. Labeled, "Estate Plan and Will," in bold print. At first I hesitated. I didn't want to be nosy. Or maybe I didn't want to confirm what I already suspected. Still, I opened it, telling myself I was just making sure everything was in order, as I always did. And there it was. Clear as day. Every major asset my parents owned, the house valued at over $450,000, their remaining savings, the new SUV, Mom's jewelry, even her wedding ring, was willed entirely to my younger sister, Samantha. Not a shared split. Not to both daughters. Just her name. Samantha. As for me? One line. We love both our daughters. That was it. My fingers gripped the page so tightly it started to crease under my knuckles. My chest tightened with something cold and hollow. Like I'd fallen through the floor. I remembered the times I'd driven through snowstorms to bring Mom her meds. The night I stayed up fixing the leaking water heater by flashlight because Dad didn't know how. The weekends I skipped vacations to repaint the porch, to babysit my niece so Samantha could take time for herself. I had given and given. And now, in black and white, I saw what it was worth. I heard the back door creak open. My mom stepped in, wiping her hands on a gardening towel. "Did you find the statement?" she asked, casual as ever. I stood up slowly, the will still in hand. "Mom, is this real?" She froze. Her eyes flicked to the paper and then back to me. "Oh. Hannah, what does that mean?" I cut her off, trying to keep my voice even though every word felt like it was coming through a throat lined with glass. "A lifetime of caring for you and Dad, and I'm written off like I never existed?" That's when Dad walked in from the living room, coffee in hand. He set it down like he just walked into a weather report. "You don't need to react like this, Hannah. You're doing fine. Samantha, she's still figuring things out." I stared at him. "She's 30. She's had 12 jobs in the last 3 years. She can't even pay her own phone bill. And she's not the one who paid your mortgage the last 3 years," I added, my voice sharp and rising. "She didn't fix your roof last winter. I did. The house you live in wouldn't be standing without me." Mom stepped forward, hand out like she could comfort me by touching me. "Don't overthink it. I wanted your sister to feel secure." I pulled away. "And what about me?" I asked, voice like ice. "The one who's been your safety net for over a decade? The one you forgot to mention in your will?" Neither of them said anything. I folded the will carefully, like sealing a war declaration, and set it on the table. "Thanks for showing me where I stand." And then I walked to the door. No one stopped me. No one called out. There was no shouting. No begging me to stay. Just silence. The same silence I'd ignored for years, chalked up to family being complicated. But this time, I didn't feel sad. Not even angry. Just hollow. Like something inside me had been scooped out. The kind of emptiness you can't cry away. I never went back to that house again. 2 weeks passed after that day, and I heard nothing from them. No calls. No apologies. Not even an awkward, "Hope you're doing okay" message. It was like I'd never existed, as if all the years I'd held that house together, all the sacrifices I made, were simply deleted the moment I set that will down on the dining table and walked out. Then, on a Thursday morning, I received a text from my father. It was blunt and businesslike, as if nothing had happened. "Hannah, this month's mortgage is due. Can you transfer it soon? Deadline's Friday." No. "Hi." No acknowledgement of the will. No reference to our last conversation. Just a demand. I stared at the message, fingers hovering above the screen. Part of me wanted to laugh, not because it was funny, but because of how perfectly it encapsulated everything. My worth to them had been boiled down to a transaction. I replied, each word typed with frigid clarity. I think Samantha can handle it. That house is hers now, right? I didn't wait for a response. I put my phone down and went back to my coffee like nothing had happened. 10 minutes later, the screen lit up again. This time, it was my mom. Hannah, don't do this. We need to talk. I didn't answer. I wasn't angry, not anymore. I wasn't even heartbroken. What I felt was something colder, sharper, ruthless clarity. The kind you only get after years of hoping have been burned away by disappointment. For years, I believed that love meant showing up. That family meant sacrifice. That if I kept giving, eventually I'd be seen. I was wrong. 3 days later, another message came, this one from Samantha. You're overreacting. Mom and Dad didn't mean it like that. You've always been independent. I'm just not. You know that. I stared at her words. The same old excuse. The same helpless tone that had always been enough to excuse everything. I typed back slowly. Then prove you deserve what you've been given. Start by paying the mortgage. She didn't reply. Silence stretched for another week. Then, on a Monday morning, as I sipped my coffee in my small but peaceful apartment, my phone buzzed with a transfer request, $2,900 from my mom. No message. No explanation. Just a cold, silent attempt to withdraw the money. I declined it without hesitation. Mom called within minutes. I let it ring to the fourth buzz, then declined. A text followed seconds later. Hannah, I know you saw it. Why did you decline? I replied simply. Because it's no longer my responsibility. Asked Samantha. And just like that, the dynamic began to shift. The following day, Samantha texted again. You're being so selfish. Didn't you always say family comes first? I read that message 5 times, letting the weight of its hypocrisy settle in. Family. The same family who left me off the will. The same family who watched me shoulder every responsibility without thanks or recognition. I replied with one sentence. Family is about fairness and respect, not using someone until they're no longer useful. After that, the silence wasn't just quiet, it was strategic. No one reached out for days. Then weeks. Until the next wave hit. The following week, my mom texted again. Hannah, the landline got cut. Your sister says she doesn't know how to log into the account. I don't know what to do. I read it, then walked over to the bookshelf, pulled out the old notebook, the one where I had recorded every password, every due date, every service number. It was the manual I had built to keep their household running while they pretended nothing needed fixing. I looked at it for a long time. Then I closed it and placed it back on the shelf. Not my circus. Not my fire. 3 days later, another message from Samantha. Are you kidding me right now? The power's about to be shut off. Are you really going to let that happen to our family? I replied. No. I'm letting everyone take responsibility for their own choices. That silence, the one I used to dread, started to feel like music. Until one morning, I got a call from Lorraine, the neighbor who'd lived next door to my parents for 20 years. Your mom asked me if I knew anyone selling houses. She said gently. I think they're not managing well anymore. I thanked her and hung up. I didn't feel smug. I didn't smile. But I didn't cry either. It was strange, watching something fall apart that I had once spent my entire adult life holding together. But I wasn't going to step in anymore. I wasn't the safety net. I wasn't the backup plan. Then came the visit. Samantha showed up at my door. She looked disheveled, no makeup, hoodie crumpled, documents in hand like she had sprinted through 5 years of reality in 1 week. I just need 5 minutes, she said breathlessly. Just 5 minutes, Hannah. I stood in the doorway, unmoved. You here to ask for money? Not money, she said quickly, desperation in her voice. I just need help, talking to the bank. I don't understand the terms. I'm overwhelmed. I crossed my arms. What about the inheritance? You're the owner now, right? She looked down. It's tied up in an investment portfolio. There's a penalty if I withdraw. I didn't think it would spiral this fast. I raised an eyebrow. Yet you signed for everything without hesitation. Samantha was silent. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. This is your lesson. Everyone stumbles. But no one learns if someone else is always there to catch them. Her voice cracked. You're really going to let them lose the house? I'm not letting anything happen. They made choices. Now they live with them. I turned and walked away. The collapse had begun. I didn't want to fight. I didn't even want revenge. I just wanted to be free. For weeks after Samantha stood outside my apartment begging for help, I heard nothing. No calls. No texts. No late-night sob stories or, "Can you just?" favors. It was quiet, eerily so, but I welcomed it. I didn't wake up to bills that weren't mine. I didn't spend Sundays wrestling with guilt. I cooked for one, paid for one, and breathed for one. Me. My apartment became a sanctuary. I painted the walls a soft gray blue. I bought myself a second-hand reading chair I'd always eyed but never dared to splurge on. I signed up for an online art class, something I had once said I'd do. Someday. That someday had finally arrived. But just when I thought they might have finally let go, when I dared to believe they were moving on, their silence turned into something far worse, a story. One I hadn't written. It started subtly. Olivia, a coworker from the art center, messaged me on a rainy Tuesday evening. "Hannah, are you on Facebook? You might want to check your mom's page. She's posting some wild stuff." I hadn't used Facebook in over a year. I barely scrolled anymore. But something about Olivia's tone made me stop mid-sip of my tea. I opened the app. Logged in. There it was. A post pinned at the top of my mother's page. A photo of the old house, my childhood home. Its red brick exterior looked faded in the overcast sky. The caption read, "It breaks a parent's heart when your own child turns her back on you. We never imagined our daughter would abandon us in our time of need. After everything we sacrificed. After all the love. We are heartbroken." I blinked. Read it again. The post had over 80 shares. The comments were full of crying emojis and platitudes from old church friends and distant relatives. "You raised her so well, Denise. This must be devastating. Some kids just forget where they came from. You don't deserve this. Stay strong." I kept scrolling. Another post followed. This one from my dad. "We thought Hannah loved her family. We thought she was strong. But when things got tough, she walked away. No explanation. No help. The house we built is slipping away, and she acts like nothing's happening." And then, as if that weren't enough, Samantha joined the chorus. "Some people only show kindness when they're above you. But when family asks for help, they choose silence. That's today's version of strong, I guess." I stared at the screen, my hands trembling, not with sadness, not even rage, but a cold kind of disbelief. I hadn't said a word in public. I hadn't aired our dirty laundry. I had taken the high road. I had stepped back quietly, with dignity. And this was how they filled the silence I left. They didn't reach out. They didn't apologize. They weaponized the one thing they still had, perception. They wanted sympathy. They wanted me to feel guilt again. To be dragged back into the role I had finally crawled out of. They forgot one thing. I wasn't silent anymore. That night I opened my laptop. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a long time. I didn't want revenge. I wanted truth. So I made one post. Just one. No background colors. No fancy fonts. Just black letters on white. "My family is sharing a one-sided story. So here's the truth from my side." I attached a photo of the will, Samantha's name listed as the sole beneficiary. No joint ownership. No shared inheritance. Just her. Then I uploaded screenshots of the mortgage payments, utility bills, and insurance receipts, all in my name. I highlighted the final text from my mom. "Hannah, please transfer $2,900 before Friday. The mortgage is due." And I ended it with one sentence. My silence wasn't consent. I was just waiting for the right moment to speak. That moment is now. I hit post. I closed my laptop. I didn't check it again that night. I went to sleep not knowing what the world would say, but knowing I had finally said it. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. Notifications. Messages. Comments. The first one. "Hannah, you seriously did all of this for them? I had no idea." Another. "I'm so sorry, girl. You deserve peace. Not guilt." Then came the shares. Dozens. Then hundreds. People who knew my parents commented in disbelief. "I always wondered how Samantha afforded that SUV. Now it makes sense. Denise never mentioned Hannah did all this. She always made it sound like Samantha was the caregiver. You don't deserve to be treated like an ATM. Especially not by your own family." By that evening, my mom's original post was gone. The next morning, my dad's account had been deactivated. Samantha changed her profile picture to a black and white flower, her usual move when she lost control of a narrative. I didn't post again. I didn't need to. The truth had done its work. One post. One push. And years of forced silence shattered like glass. I felt lighter. Not joyful, not triumphant. Just free. But then came the fallout. A week passed. Then two. I thought they might go quiet. Reflect. But I had overestimated the self-awareness of people who had always lived off the backs of others. It started again, but in whispers now. Mutual friends reaching out awkwardly. Hey, I saw what happened. I'm staying out of it, but I believe you. Old neighbors emailed me asking for the full story. Even Mrs. Lorraine, the neighbor who had lived next to my parents for decades, called again. Your mom isn't doing well, dear. I see Samantha there often, carrying groceries. But she doesn't look happy. I listened but said nothing. I didn't gloat. I didn't laugh. I just moved forward. My savings began to grow for the first time in years. I finally put a deposit down on a semi-professional camera. I booked a trip to Seattle in the fall to photograph the changing leaves, something I used to call a silly dream. I wasn't anyone's lifeline anymore. And strangely, that made me feel more alive than ever. But the story wasn't over yet. On a chilly Saturday morning, I was sipping coffee, editing photos in my favorite cafe, when my phone buzzed with a real estate notification. Price dropped by $30,000. Property at 218 Elm Street. Owner seeking urgent sale. I stared at the screen. That was the house. The house I kept from falling apart for a decade. Now listed. Reduced. And crumbling. A week later, Marcus, a realtor friend, sent me a message. Hey Hannah. Your parents' house popped up on my list again. High risk. Still no offers. Looks like no one's fixing the wiring or the roof. I nodded quietly. That house had survived because of me. Now it showed the truth, neglect. It stood as a reflection of everything they had refused to see, that without care, without effort, things break. And not everything can be salvaged. Later that night, I received one more email. It was from a woman I didn't know, a stranger who had seen my posts, read my story, and found my blog. Her message was short. Thank you. I left my family too. For the same reasons. I thought I was alone until now. Your story gave me courage. I stared at her words. It hit me then, my story wasn't just mine. It was a mirror for hundreds of others who had spent years trying to be enough. Who gave without receiving. Who stayed quiet to avoid conflict. Who were told they were dramatic, selfish, difficult, just for wanting to be treated with fairness. I smiled. Not because I had won. But because I had finally chosen myself. Since the day I posted the truth, everything changed, not just outside, but inside me. There was no more second guessing, no more holding my breath every time my phone buzzed, wondering if it was another request, another guilt trip, another tether trying to pull me back into a story I no longer wanted to be part of. They didn't respond. Not directly, at least. My parents didn't call. Samantha didn't message. There were no half-hearted apologies, no last-minute explanations. For the first time in years, there was just space. I thought the silence would feel like exile. Instead, it felt like peace. Every Monday morning, I showed up at the art center where I now taught photography to high school students. Teenagers with wide eyes and nervous hands, clutching second-hand cameras, eager to learn how to capture the world around them. I watched them discover light, angles, framing, how to tell a story without saying a word. It reminded me of myself. A version of me that had forgotten how to live without carrying everyone else's weight. I took long walks in the evening. Baked on weekends. I started a blog, not to vent, but to process. I wrote about boundaries, healing, growing up as the reliable child, the one who always has it together. The comments that came in weren't from strangers, they were from reflections. People who had lived my story, just in different houses. One night, I got an email from a reader in her 60s. I spent 4 decades cleaning up after my siblings and never once got a thank you. Your words made me feel less crazy. Thank you for making space for people like me. I read it 3 times. Then I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I wasn't alone. And yet life had a strange way of circling back. I learned that firsthand the day I came home and saw the silver minivan parked outside my building. My parents' minivan. I stopped mid-step. The van I had once co-signed for when Dad couldn't get approved. The van I had transferred to his name last year as a final gesture of trust. It was still running, barely. Just like them. They were waiting near the entrance, holding themselves stiff and cautious like people who knew they weren't welcome but came anyway. Samantha stood behind them, arms crossed, eyes flickering everywhere but mine. I said nothing as I approached. I stopped 3 feet away, arms folded across my chest, waiting. It was my mother who spoke first. Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it, threadbare. Hannah. I'm sorry we came like this. But the bank is coming next week to reassess the property. We don't know what to do. Dad's voice followed, lower, rougher. We made a mistake. I know that now. But your mom, she's not well. And if we lose the house... He trailed off, not finishing the sentence. Maybe because he didn't know how. Or maybe because he knew I wouldn't finish it for him this time. I looked him dead in the eye. Then why, when you wrote the will, did you decide I wasn't worth including? His hands fidgeted with the edge of his coat. His gaze dropped. We thought you'd be fine. You've always been strong. But Samantha, I said, my voice razor sharp, gets to fail. And gets forgiven. And gets everything. I turned to her. She didn't speak. Her silence wasn't guilt. It was avoidance. I kept going. I gave away my 20s. My savings. My peace. I carried you, every one of you. And the only thing I got in return was the assumption that I'd keep doing it. Mom reached for me, a tear slipping down her cheek. We didn't know it would come to this. Can't you help, just a little, just until things stabilize? I stepped back. Not because I was angry, but because I was finally clear. I'm not saying no because I can't help. I'm saying no because if I do, you'll all go right back to believing I never needed boundaries. That I never deserved to rest. That I'm some kind of safety net you can toss your weight into over and over. Samantha finally spoke, her voice a whisper. I didn't think it would get so complicated. I thought it just needed time. I didn't think you'd walk away so fast. I laughed. Softly, bitterly. Fast? I waited. I hoped. I gave you every chance to treat me like more than just your fixer. But no one listened. My mom's tears flowed freely now. So this is really it? I looked at her, not the woman who raised me, but the woman who had written me out of her life with the stroke of a pen. I didn't end this, I said quietly. It ended the moment you decided who deserved to be named and who didn't. They said nothing. The autumn wind blew through the parking lot. The trees were almost bare now. A chill cut through the silence like a final reminder that some seasons never come back once they pass. I pulled my keys from my pocket. I hope you find a way, I said, turning to the door. But I'm no longer your lifeline. I looked at Samantha. If you truly want to grow up, this is your chance. I've stepped off the merry-go-round. Now it's your turn. I went inside. I didn't look back. The hallway was quiet. The air smelled of cinnamon from the bakery next door. I sat on my couch, the light from the window stretching long and soft across the hardwood floor. And for the first time, I didn't feel like a daughter torn in two. I just felt like myself. Weeks passed. I thought the confrontation might have ended things for good. But I was wrong. Because when guilt didn't work, when pleading didn't work, they tried the last tool they had left, shame. On a Monday morning, Olivia sent me another message. You might want to see your mom's Facebook again. I didn't want to. But I did. Another photo of the house. This time paired with an emotional caption. It's heartbreaking when your own child walks away from her sick parents. After all we did. After all we gave. She chose silence. Hundreds of likes. Dozens of comments. People praying, sending love, calling me cold, selfish, ungrateful. Then came one from my dad. We're about to lose our home. Our daughter won't return our calls. If you've ever known Hannah, please reach out to her. We're desperate. And then, of course, Samantha. Some people are strong until they're asked to step down from the pedestal and help. Then suddenly it's boundaries. I gripped my phone. Not with rage. Not even pain. Just tiredness. I wasn't going to reply. But I wasn't going to be silent either. So I logged in. I didn't argue. I didn't rant. I just posted one image. A screenshot of the will. Samantha's name, sole beneficiary. Then I posted the last text my mother had sent asking for the mortgage money. Then another with my dad's request. Then another with my sister's accusations. No hashtags. No tags. Just this. I didn't walk away. I stepped aside. And they didn't notice until they needed me again. I don't need them to bow. I just need them to stop. And then I logged off. 2 days later, their posts disappeared. 3 days later, Samantha blocked me. And 4 days after that, a silence returned that wasn't manipulative, or strategic, or weaponized. It was final. Not angry. Not bitter. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when people finally realize they've lost access to you. Not because you hate them, but because you've finally chosen yourself. There's something no one tells you about growing up as the strong one in a family. You get praised for being reliable, admired for being independent, and quietly depended on for everything. But beneath that praise lies a deeper truth. The more capable you are, the less people think you need love, recognition, or care. For years I thought my value came from how much I could carry. How many problems I could solve. How many late-night calls I could answer. I became the fixer, the peacemaker, the one who stayed calm when everyone else fell apart. And in return, I was erased from the story the moment I stopped giving. What I've learned is this: being good doesn't mean being available to everyone, all the time. And love isn't proven by sacrifice alone. It's proven by mutual respect. By boundaries. By reciprocity. It took getting written out of a will, discarded like a name in the margin, to realize that love that only exists when you're useful isn't love. It's convenience. And it took me even longer to understand that letting go isn't failure. It isn't cold or cruel. Sometimes, it's the most compassionate thing you can do, for yourself and for those who keep taking without reflection. Because enabling someone's comfort isn't always kindness. Sometimes, it's just prolonging the inevitable collapse. The house fell apart when I stopped supporting it. But it wasn't because I abandoned them. It was because I had been the one quietly holding everything together for years, while being told I was overreacting, dramatic, or too intense, every time I asked for fairness. And when I left, not with fireworks or revenge, but with silence and clarity, the truth finally surfaced. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't owe anyone your silence, your savings, your sanity, just because they call themselves family. Family isn't who shares your name. It's who respects your boundaries, your voice, and your worth. And if the people you were born to don't offer that, you have every right to walk away. People will call you selfish. They'll say you've changed. They'll beg for help without acknowledging the years you gave without asking for anything. And when you stop, they'll say you've become cold. But what they really mean is that they lost access to your sacrifice. To your unpaid labor. To your quiet loyalty. I used to think that walking away meant I failed. Now I know, it meant I finally chose myself. Healing didn't happen in one day. It came in moments, small, almost invisible ones. Waking up without dread. Drinking coffee without watching my phone for a transfer notification. Saying no without writing an apology afterward. Buying something for myself without guilt. Laughing at something silly without the weight of guilt pressing on my chest. I didn't need anyone to bow. I didn't need tears or apologies or rewritten wills. I just needed them to stop taking from me like it was their right. And when they finally did, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt light. And now, I live in that light every day. Not because they changed. But because I did. And that's the most powerful thing I've ever done.